What's up guys, Ian Sandusky from Let's Machine back here again for Practical Machinist. Today we're going to be talking about some financial tips and rules to help you succeed. But before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so today we're going to be going through some financial tips, tricks, and rules that I try to follow that I feel help make people more successful in their machining business. First and foremost, I am not an accountant, I am not a financial advisor, so these are all just general rules and advice, but make sure you guys are speaking to a financial professional in your area to make sure that you are doing everything correctly when it comes to taxes, when it comes to financial rules and laws. I'm not a professional here, so let's just get that out of the way first and foremost. So the first thing that I think you guys should look into when you're setting up a machining business, or whether you have a machining business you're running, is overdraft. For those of you who don't know, overdraft is basically limited credit you can get on your business's account. So, I mean, everybody should know this, but overdraft is if I have $1,000 in my account and a bill comes out for $2,000, instead of that bouncing and rejecting the payment, it will go through into my overdraft. So it's like a limited credit that you can apply for that can basically give you a little more breathing room. We as a business, we utilize overdraft a lot more than something like a loan or a line of credit. I find it very useful because it gives you breathing room in your account. Generally, if you have good terms with your bank and you can figure this out, as long as the overdraft is paid back before the statement comes up, there is no interest on it. At least for us, that's what it is. So having overdraft keeps you from getting rejected payments. And if you guys who have ever had a check bounce before know that rejected payments not only cost you money because of the NSF fees and the failure to process fees and all that good stuff, but if you're getting payments rejected by your vendors, they are not going to be very happy with you. Nobody wants to chase money. So using an overdraft product, I find to be very, very helpful for us. For example, we try to keep our bank account with a nest egg in there, but sometimes you have a month where everything comes out at once, and having that room to be able to breathe is very helpful, especially at either a no charge rate or a very low charge rate compared to a product like a line of credit or a credit card. The reason why you want to stay very good with your vendors, and this brings me to point 2, is you want to have terms. What terms are, for those of you who don't know, are the basic agreed upon standards of how and when you are going to pay after getting a bill. So for instance, let's say I go and I get 3 cutters ordered in by my tool sales company. I don't pay for that up front. What I always try to do is get terms with them. So our terms, for example, with our tooling companies are generally net 30. So what net 30 means is from the date that I order that tool and it arrives on the floor, I have 30 days with no interest to pay that bill. The reason why this is important is, let's say I'm ordering in material for a job and it's gonna cost X. I don't want to have to pay for that material before I get paid for that job. So I mean, in an ideal world, and this doesn't always happen, I would have something like net 45 terms with my vendor. So I get the material in, I have 2 weeks to do that. I have net 30 terms with my customer. That means by the time the bill comes due for my material, I already have the money in-house from my job that I did, from the customer. So what this does is it gets my cash flow at a point where I'm never taking out of my own pocket to pay for something. Now, it's very easy to say this and it's all great, to say, oh, get longer terms with this. It doesn't always happen. Generally, my terms with my customers that I extend credit to are net 30 terms. Generally, my longest terms I have with any of my vendors is net 30. So it does kind of turn into a situation where, you do have to make sure you have the money there to pay it. You don't count on the terms paying it, but it helps keep money flowing properly and you're not getting too much coming out of your account at once just to set up for jobs. The reason why terms are difficult to get is because they are a form of credit. I have never extended terms for a customer or gotten terms with a vendor without doing a credit reference. A credit reference generally will have something on it where, everybody's sheet's a little different, but it'll say something like, I want to know your bank information, I want to know how long you've been in business, and then some references. And the reference questions generally include things like, what terms do you have with these people right now? What was their high credit? Because it may be fine to give somebody terms for something that is a $1,000 job, but you may not want to give them terms on something that could bankrupt you if they decide not to pay. So making sure that you go through their credit references, or you have to give proper references that show a pattern of paying on time at a credit limit that makes sense, is very important. Now, the reason why you want to make sure that you do not overdraft, or sorry, not that you don't overdraft, but you don't bounce checks, is if you are bouncing checks, companies will not give you terms. And if you have to pay everything out of pocket, it's a lot like being a dangerous classified driver on the road. You're gonna get what you need, but you're gonna have to pay a lot to do it through insurance. So trying to make sure that you always stay on top of paying your bills on time to be able to honor those terms is only gonna help you going forward. The last kind of financial thing that I like to talk about, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but I feel like it's very, very important, is not over leveraging yourself. I'll tell you a little story. I know this one guy who started his own machining business, a younger guy, brilliant machinist. I will tell you right now, he was fantastic. He knew how to program really well, knew how to set up jobs, seemed like he knew how to quote everything out. He was doing really well for himself. The problem that they got into as a small business was that they got over leveraged. He started with one mill. I know he ended up getting another mill. I think there was a lathe involved. And at the end of the day, once the work slowed down a little bit, I don't know the specifics of it, but all of a sudden you become due for 5 bills that you can't pay that day. Guess what, guys? The machine companies don't really care about what's going on with you. They will come and take their machines back. I don't know if you guys have ever had a lease or a machine that you're leasing to own, but a lot of these machines have codes in them. And if you do not renew that code every time that contract renews, your machine will lock you out. It's just the way the world works. So making sure that you do not over leverage yourself and get too many things due when you're trying to grow is critical. I've talked about in some of my other videos about knowing when and how to invest in a new machine, and it's learning how to time out when you actually need something versus growing for the sake of growth. That's really going to contribute towards whether you're a successful business or whether you're a business that struggles to pay the bills. It's not about being risk averse, it's about being risk aware, knowing what kind of things you are investing in, how your money is coming out, and knowing when it's time to expand. There's some things that you really can't avoid taking risk on, such as buying a new machine. You could have all the work lined up for that machine in the world, and at the end of the day, that might dry up tomorrow. They may cancel their contracts. There's not much you can do about it, but it's knowing about how to mitigate that risk and not over leverage yourself to the point where you are basically just working to pay your bills and struggling every month, okay? The other thing I'd really like to touch on here is if you're in a scenario where you have an option to lease or you have an option to lease to own, always, 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 no matter how good the terms are, always go for the ownership. This is essential when it comes to your business and your building. The building you are in is going to be the biggest expense you will ever have, whether you are renting or whether you are buying. And I know, guys, especially where I am here, trying to find units to buy is very, very difficult. Things are very inflated. It's a very tough situation. But I can't tell you how many companies I know have had to fold because they got in a scenario where they keep growing in a space they do not own. Their landlord decides to raise the rent. They can't find somewhere else to go at a comparable price, and they have no other option but to shutter. Trying to make sure that you are always looking for, if you're in a scenario where you have to rent, that's fine, but to make sure you're always looking for a place you can call your own where you don't have to work for the landlord is going to be critical. This is small business advice. If you guys are at a place or you own a place where you have 100 guys there, I don't know what buying a building like that looks like. I just know that from my own experience, our shop here, if we didn't own these units, probably in the last 3 years, there are scenarios that have come up where I don't know if we would have been here, especially with COVID, especially with some of our customers shifting to different business models. If we did not have the luxury that was built into this business of not having a $30,000 check due at the first of every month, I don't know if we would be here. So getting yourself in a position where you are not over leveraging yourself, but you are either working towards owning a building or owning a building is essential. That is a very, very difficult thing to do. I know it's hard, but looking towards that is the ultimate goal you guys need to be focusing on, okay? In the comments below, guys, I would like to know some of your top financial tips for new businesses and established businesses, some things that have helped you over the years and some things that you think might help other people. You know, let's share the information and see if we can help each other out, okay? Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. We'll talk soon. Have a great day.